All right, we are here with Omer Samiri. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Long time
Good to
no
see you.
see, no
Yeah,
talk, no it's been a while.
it's been a while. Yeah, I don't go out to Vegas as often as we used to back in the days.
Yeah, well, I mean back when you're in nightlife, Vegas and LA is so intertwined. I was out there a lot, you were out here a lot, but now, we
Yeah.
both kind of aged out of it, so we're living different lives now.
Yeah, no. Now I try to get to Vegas once a year, if that. So, but certainly enjoy my time out there.
That's awesome.
Thanks for having me
Let,
on.
us talk about what jobs you held when you first, you turned 16 or whenever you started working, your first jobs in the workforce. What did you what'd you do? What titles do you hold? What venues do you work at?
So I grew up in LA in the Valley, and around the time I was going to college and in a fraternity, we started going out to different venues in Hollywood that were 18 and over at the time, some 21 and over venues with fake IDs. And I started dating a girl at the time that was friends with promoters at the Century Club. This is way back in the day. And so they saw that I knew a lot of people growing up in LA and going to college out here, and offered me the ability to basically become a sub promoter and get paid on the people that I brought out. So I started at the Gate and the Century Club back in kind of the late 1990s. And then as Hollywood started to really grow and develop, which there wasn't really anything in Hollywood at the time, the nightlife shifted to Hollywood area. And so I started as a sub promoter working for about 2 or 3 years, getting paid $5 a head on my people. And then I started negotiating my own deals with venues and bypassing the head promoter, just kind of developing my own events. And I would partner up with different people. I think very early on, Sam Remo was one of my partners. He's out in Vegas all the time. And then I partnered up with people like Sean Antonio and Mac Africa and Danny B. And so we would do, promotions Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and kind of built a business out of it that started, from getting $5 a head to producing events with 2,000, 3,000 people a night, which was great. Certainly enjoyable.
That's huge. Now, being a sub promoter, you said you're getting $5 a head. Is that girls, guys that they pay to cover? Like, how does that whole work for people who don't know
Yeah,
like the industry?
So before nightclubs started controlling that aspect of it in LA, I think things have evolved tremendously in LA in terms of compensation. Excuse me. Let me just put my do not disturb on here. Things have evolved quite substantially. I think it was really up to the head promoter in terms of how they wanted to compensate sub promoters. Sometimes they did $3 for girls, $5 for guys. Sometimes they paid on comp separately from pays. Depending on the relationship with the promoter and what the potential was for you as a sub promoter, you can negotiate more, I guess. And so, I worked fortunately for Brad Wida very early on. I don't know if you know Brad and Dave from years ago, but Brad was always really accommodating and would kick down extra and just made the entire sub promoter experience a little bit more enjoyable. We would get at the Century Club we'd get comp dinner tabs and all $100 filet mignon dinner and sushi dinner. It was great. I couldn't complain. As a sub promoter, it was great.
That's awesome. That's a lot of people who don't know, the ins and outs of nightlife don't know, like promoters, sub promoters, girl wranglers, like although there's a lot of little cogs that go in the wheel to make it turn.
Yeah, and I always worked at nightclubs that generated cover charges. So it was a lot different from some of the venues where there was no cover charge and they had to rely on bottle service. So, we went into it, trying to generate revenue at the door, trying to charge guys $20, trying to charge girls $20, and trying to get away with whatever we could to generate money to cover costs. And so, that's when things kind of evolved with nightlife and the club started taking over and putting everybody on flats and giving, 20 comp bottles a night, which, by Vegas standards is probably nothing. And the whole dynamic kind of changed to, no cover charge. Our venues were always, mixed crowd, cover charge at the door, open format music, and we did bottle service as well. And it was a great formula for LA because we'd really catered to a really wide demographic of people. So it was not too much in one specific demographic, but a nice mix of everything.
Now, when you're setting up the deals with venues themselves, were you doing like the deals like, okay, we get the door and maybe a piece of the bar, and so it worked out that way?
Yeah, it's exactly how it works. So there would be some type of bar guarantee in order to earn a percentage of the bar. Typically, we would get the full door, although at some venues like the Vanguard, where we had a much different deal structure working with Pasquale and Dave Dean, it was a whole different environment. But typically, the standard deal back then over the years with the club would be the full door, anywhere from 10 to 25% of the bar, depending on certain bar thresholds. And we'd have bar minimums, bar guarantees anywhere from like $10,000 to $20,000, depending on the venue and the night of the week. So, obviously midweek, lower bar guarantees, Saturdays, higher bar guarantees. And then we would negotiate with the club to come in there. We'd bring in our door staff. We'd bring in the DJs. They would essentially just have the security and the bar staff and the cocktail servers. And it would be a collective effort, obviously, to push bottles, generate revenue, pack the night, have a good experience. And we did that, at the tons of different venues over my 17-year span in the industry. But the goal was to be at a venue for the longer, the better. So some promotions would last 2 or 3 years, 4 years at the Vanguard, at Ritual, Element. These are some of the clubs that we had, really, really long-term promotions. Others, the venue, it might only be a 3-month promotion, and then we were off to the next one. So it really depended.
Well, especially in LA, I know the lifespan of like places in LA, some places wouldn't make it past like 6 months.
I always felt it was either a venue had the energy and the vibe or it didn't. And there were some venues that, had all the hype in the world. They had tremendous amount of money put into them to make them unique, and they just didn't have it. They didn't have the vibe. And then you had other venues that did barely anything, that were industrial and just had a great energy, and that commanded that longevity, I think. But yes, the Hollywood crowd is very fickle, and certainly, and a lot of it is, promoters and their relationships with their guests and keeping them coming back. And I think over the years that kind of, at the end of the day, people just wanted to go where they were hooked up the most, and they didn't really care about which promoter was taking care of them. They wanted to just go where they got the best deal. And so I think, that nightlife kind of killed itself in LA. Yeah.
What do you think about the invention of bottle service? Do you think that kind of hurt the nightclub experience as well, or do you think that kind of helped it?
I think it helped, but I think it has to be a balance of bottle service and cover, and having exclusivity, but not being too exclusive. So there's a lot of venues in LA that were quote unquote A-list, that were super exclusive, that only did bottle service. And you walk in there, you're like, how did this guy get in here? How did this guy, I wouldn't let this guy into my club if I was running it. We were running open mixed crowd type nights, that were not super exclusive. They were certainly at capacity, but definitely not super exclusive. So I think, bottle service is important because it gets those bar numbers up there where the owners, want them to be. And it really depends too on the budget for the night. So in Vegas standards, where you have talent that's $250,000 a night, you need the bottle service to offset that. In our situation, we were going with, I wouldn't say low budget DJs, but certainly within an operational norm, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a night for a DJ. So our total expenses might be, pushing $2,000, $3,000 tops. So we'd be able to cover that pretty quickly and then start generating revenue from there.
Do you think it's crazy thinking back to 20 years ago, and then the exuberant amount that DJs are getting paid these days?
I mean, I saw it coming, and it's crazy. I mean, the big DJ talent is the big DJ talent, but we weren't in that world because we were doing mixed format nights. So we might have DJ Vice, DJ AM before he blew up, some of these guys, but they were certainly not, $40,000-$50,000 a night DJs.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I started hearing, the $250,000 for a night, to play for 4 hours, I'm like, Jesus, I wish I started DJing.
No, but when you have somebody dropping 40 grand on a table, it's okay.
Yeah. There's nights, Vegas clubs will do $1 million in one night. So it's justified.
Yes.
So do you miss working in the nightlife scene?
I miss it and I don't. I mean, I miss the fast pace. I miss the excitement. I miss the energy of being out in nightlife. But after a while, I couldn't even be in the club anymore. It was just too much for me. So I tend to stay out of the outside out in the front where I can breathe and I'm not bogged down by all the craziness inside. Um, I don't miss the late nights. I certainly don't miss working all day on Friday and then going out to the club on Friday night. And I don't miss long weekends. But I do miss once in a blue moon heading out to town and getting the red carpet treatment.
Yeah.
That's it.
What do you think was like your favorite part about working in hospitality?
Um, I mean, I liked running the show, even though I did it very much kind of behind the scenes and low pro. So I wasn't the the one that was out there in everybody's face, but I was just kind of behind the scenes operationally, making sure everything was running smoothly. I enjoyed I enjoyed managing a team of promoters and door staff and DJ talent and just all the coordination that goes into executing a successful event. And then you have like holidays and New Year's Eve where we'd run 3 or 4 or 5 events potentially in one night. Um, and so I miss that aspect of the job.
What was your least favorite part about working in hospitality?
Uh, I would say there's a few things that come to mind. Number one, I think the level of drunkenness sometimes is just a little too much to bear with certain people. You can't be sober in that environment. And although I didn't really drink, I certainly partook in some of the greens, that are available out there. And so you can't be sober in that environment at all. I didn't like the occupational hazards of people smoking in your face all the time. I felt like I couldn't escape the cigarette smoke even when I was outside, standing by the door. Maybe it's different now, or at least in Vegas, I know with smoking, but in LA, it was right up in your face. And then obviously the late nights, coming home at 4 in the morning, which is early, by like bartender standards and manager standards. You guys get home at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I got to leave when my door closed. LA is an early scene. It's at 1:30. We're shutting down our door and doing our payouts, and then I'm out. So that made it more bearable, but certainly the long nights were difficult.
Yeah, that was one thing I was jealous of you guys in LA. That 2 a.m. last call, you're done. That's it. Everyone out the door.
I would have killed myself in Vegas because there's no way I would have been able to handle that onslaught of multiple nights a week till the wee hours.
Oh, it's rough, man. I used to fall asleep at stoplights driving home when the sun up. Especially like the big 3-day weekends and stuff when you're just you're there from sundown to sun up and just keep going back and back. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine.
So if you can go back and change anything, what would you change, or would you change anything?
With my nightlife career?
Yeah.
No, I think I maximized it the most I could. I was making a great living, running events 3-4 nights a week. There's only so much you can do. It's hard to start, doing multiple events. You have to really have the capacity to scale like that, from a promoter environment to running and producing multiple events. And there's some guys that have done it, like the Mark Tongues and the Pasquales, and that are doing multiple events across multiple cities. Kudos to them. They've had tremendous success. But I just I like to focus on one venue and just doing it at that one venue really well.
If you can go back, would you do it all over again?
Yeah. The relationships that came out of the nightlife scene were fantastic. They helped me transition into my new business. And they're relationships that years later, when you treat people right and when you're a good and honest person in the scene, those relationships are there for you. I mean, I called up Stephen Lockwood out of the blue. Haven't talked to him in 10 years since he was at Bar 2-0 in LA. And he took care of me and a group of 15 people, on a moment's notice. And so, that's like the testament of the relationships that I think are there in the nightlife scene that you make, and they really can help you do things and achieve things. And again, it's just, a matter of how you treat people and how they treat you back.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things about the hospitality industry. Your connection, your database is probably pretty big if you've been in it for a while, because you meet so many people in one night. but the
Yeah.
average people doesn't.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And then if you're smart as a promoter and you're doing your own event and you can do data building, data aggregation, where you have, girls walking around with lists and kiosks and things like that where people can subscribe, and you start to build your database, that's where the value really comes into play, is how many people can you reach with the text blast? How many people can you reach with an email? And then things obviously transition to social media, which is a little beyond my ways, because I'm your age, and not to say that we're old, but I didn't get hip with the social media approach.
Now, do you feel like all the events and stuff that you did back in the day would have been a lot easier with social media? Because that was back when we were like using flyers and stuff.
Yeah, so I was doing flyering, and then I also would start to build a database of people and phone numbers, and I would have girls that would come to my apartment and basically work all week long calling people and inviting them out to my events. And so I'd have to sit there and babysit them to just sit there and make calls and essentially invite people out. And as the list grew larger and larger, it commanded more time. And that's kind of what led me to start my text messaging company, is because I saw text messaging was starting. I was already using it through a company that wasn't working. And it was right around the time VCast was coming out, so Verizon VCast. And so I said, oh man, it's just a matter of time before I can record a video and actually send it out to people's phones of the event, in the form of a message. And so that's what kind of led me to my idea of starting my software company, which is where we're at today.
That's awesome. What was the first time when you realized that, okay, I don't want to be in nightlife anymore, and you started thinking about making that transition out?
I think I realized very quickly that nightlife was not going to be a long-term play for me, and that I only initially thought I would be doing it for like 3 to 5 years max.
Don't we all?
Yeah. And then it just got bigger and bigger, and I couldn't turn it away. In fact, at one point I was going to move to Miami, and I decided not to because of the fact that I was already doing pretty good revenue, considering kind of the alternative of going to Miami and starting from scratch. And so I decided to stay put and just kind of build the business. But I would say that very early on, I realized that I did not want to be doing it forever. I always kind of envisioned myself getting married and having kids and not being in that scene forever. So the fact that I got into it was kind of by circumstance, through the relationships and the people I was able to bring out. And then I was able to treat it like a business. So it helped me build it. But then I was trying to get out of it as fast as I could.
Nice. Now, how many times did you think you tried to get out, or were you just like, okay, I'm going to go this direction, I'm out, done? Because a lot of people we talk to, they tried something that didn't work, to go back to bartending. Tried something didn't work, go back to waiter. Go try something. So, how many times did you have to keep like throwing stuff at the wall until it stuck?
Only once, fortunately.
Nice.
So I started. It was a long process to start my company. So as I was promoting and working 3-4 nights a week, I was also then writing a business plan for my text messaging idea. And then after I wrote my business plan, which took about 1.5 years of going to wireless shows and doing research and online and things like that, looking at competition, I had to find a business partner because I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to program. So then I found a business partner, and then we spent 3 years building software every day, every night, essentially working from 8 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning, building software. For 3 years before we were able to even launch. So between 03 and 06 was just software development. And then in 06, so it was all kind of riding on this idea. It wasn't like I was trying something and it didn't work and I was going back. I was still promoting 4 or 5 nights a week as I was building the software on the side. And then in 06 we launched, and that's when I kind of went to my Rolodex and I said, who do I know? What do they do? And how can they use our software? And so I reached out to Sonny Smith, who was with SBE at the time. And he was able to put us through the door at SBE to do texting for their venues. And so it was those relationships that helped kind of build that business. And it wasn't about till 2009, 2010, where I was able to kind of focus full time on my software company, even though I kept doing the nightclubs, I just milked it for as long as I could because the revenue was good, and I was still building a business, and I had, a wife and a kid to support. So I couldn't just leave nightlife and just focus on my software company, iVision. I had to continue nightlife as I was building my software company. And eventually it got to the point where I was able to just step away and feel comfortable knowing that, by that point, the nightlife scene had changed. the compensation structure changed. I was going out making 100, $200 a night, and it was like, what's the point? At that point, right?
Yeah. Now what how was that last feeling of, say, that last event, the very last event that you did, you knew, okay, this is it, this is done. Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you excited?
At that point, I was no longer running promotions anymore. At that point, I was working in-house. So I was working in-house for SBE at Create Nightclub. I was working at the Argyle on Saturday nights. I was doing it, just Friday and Saturday nights, just, for my own people, and not really investing a lot of time and energy into promotion. So I already had one foot out the door for a while, just kind of milking it. And then I made the conscious decision that it was really more risky for me to leave the house every night, driving late night with drunk drivers and just a lot of stupidness going on out in the scene in the world, where I could, really kind of take that energy and channel it back into my business and help my business kind of further grow. And so I decided to step away from the weekly stuff and then still do like the special events, like the Halloween and the New Year's Eve. And so I did a couple of those. I did my birthday, and I think my birthday back in 2017 was my last official event.
Nice. Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. They're kind of like half-assing that while they're doing this, and like it wasn't until they went all in on their next career that they really started seeing progress.
I went all in a long time ago, but I still was a head promoter, and I had partners, and I had to deliver, and so there was still a lot of that joint time and effort being spent. And then once I was no longer a head promoter, and things kind of, we shifted out of venues, and everybody kind of split off and did their own thing. I was working in-house, getting paid independently. So I no longer had this whole team to manage. It certainly made it a lot easier to make that decision and step away. Because at that point, I was, like I said, I was just kind of milking it for whatever came in, waiting for an opportunity to maybe manifest itself, but knowing that more than likely I'm going to just, bounce out and no longer have to worry about it. And at that point, 17 years in, I was done.
Yeah. So you think that the Rolodex that you built through your hospitality career really helped you in the next career, right?
100%, without a doubt. I'm still in communication with a lot of the people that I worked with over the years to this day. Some of them still use our software for text messaging. We have a lot of nightclubs that still use our software. And I think they were, because of my success as in nightlife, working in promotions for some of these different venues, it was a lot easier for me to go to those owners and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'd like to do it for you. I know it's going to work. I already do it for my promotions. And so it's easy for us to get in the door. And at the time, the technology was new. So I think, the nightlife, kind of was all about it. But yeah, no, most certainly definitely opened the door to some of our early client base. And now I'm kind of doing full circle, going back to these people that I haven't talked to in 10, 15 years, saying, hey, I've built my business now for the last 15 years. How can we explore some more opportunities? Those relationships are still there.
Nice. So now what is the software that you created?
So we do essentially business texting, any type of communication between a business and their customers, their prospects, their employees. Some of it's marketing, like coupons and loyalty rewards with a kiosk. Some of it's appointment reminders, or, don't forget your table service tomorrow night. So we work with really a lot of different businesses across multiple verticals, and we do any type of communication essentially via text, via SMS. So, I was doing that back in 2001 when I came up with the idea. It certainly was the tip of the iceberg then. And, now we're in 2021, and it's still, I think, the tip of the iceberg. There's very few businesses that are actually using texting. I think a lot more now are using texting, but it's still a wide open marketplace. And so we offer our technology directly to businesses. We have NBA teams that use our software. We have Coca-Cola distributors, nightclubs, casinos, things like that, healthcare, financial companies, a lot of brick and mortars use our software. but we also have resellers that license our software. So, if people are looking for a business opportunity and they don't want to have to go and build their own software, they can come to us and we can actually private label the software for them. And then they can offer it to their client base and actually build a business leveraging our technology. So right now we have about 120 licensees across North America that have their own client base on our system. And we have total about 7,000 users that log in every day to send out messages. Many of them through our reseller network. So it's nice to be able to empower others to kind of leverage our technology and build a business. And we have some licensees that have 100 plus, 500 plus users that have built tremendous businesses with our technology.
That's awesome, dude. I remember just as you were saying that, I remember sitting there like texting everyone by hand, like for events that had coming up. Like, and you can only do like groups of like 10. So I forgot where I left off, go back, where I left off, go back, and just sit there like literally with my thumbs messaging 1,000 people. 10,
some
10
promoters would have like 3 or 4 phones going. And I think what people didn't realize is that, your phone is considered a personal device. And it only does about 200 messages in one day. After you send more than 200 messages, it starts to space those messages out. So, you would send messages to these groups, and after the first 3 or 4 groups, people are getting those messages a day later, 2 days later, sometimes not at all. So commercial text messaging doesn't have any of those restrictions. We can do millions of messages a day, and the carriers don't flinch through our technology, which is great because, with the push of a button, you can broadcast to everybody. It's certainly made it easier for people like yourself to sit there and message everybody.
God, I remember that was so time consuming. I have a little notepad to leave where I left off. I just go like start with A to Z, and I just go. Groups
That's
10,
exactly it. And how do I write the message to make it look like I'm actually text messaging this person directly?
Yeah,
and not doing a group message.
Then you get the friends that call you out like, "Thanks for the text blast, Dick."
Yeah, for sure.
Because they knew it wasn't genuinely to them. They could tell it was a text blast. Yeah.
Yeah, or Omer, this is your neighbor. Why are you inviting me to a club?
Like, yeah, I thought you liked to party, whatever.
Yeah, for everybody.
That's awesome.
So, that's the technology that we do, and it works great for businesses. And I think nowadays, I saw it back then that the cell phone was going to be the device that everybody's going to have, and everybody's going to rely on text messages. And I knew it back then. And so, but it wasn't an overnight thing. It took us, 5 years between me coming up with the idea and us signing up our first customer. So it's not like it happened overnight. It was 5 years of meeting, 3-4 times a week with my business partner from 8 o'clock at night till 2 or 3 in the morning, while we both had families and jobs, during the day. And it certainly was easier for me working in nightlife because I had a little bit more freedom during the day. But it took all of that before we were even able to launch anything. And it was bootstrapped. So we didn't have any funding, no outside investment. It was just my partner and I. And if I had to do that differently, I'd probably not have bootstrapped it. I probably would have gone and with a pitch and sought some funding. But it was a different world back then for the mobile space. And all my friends that are in their 40s now that are well established and have money to put into things that didn't exist when I was in my young 20s either. We were all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's very true. We'll put a link to your company, to the software and stuff at the bottom of this too. So if anyone's interested, cool, I love that. I love that reseller program. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. It works really well. And, anybody that's entrepreneurial that has, the beauty of it is texting works for any business. It's just a matter of saying, okay, who are you trying to communicate with? And people prefer text messaging communication at the end of the day. So it works really well. And, especially people that I think are in nightlife and have those relationships, are already social, they're already outgoing, they don't have a problem going out and introducing themselves. And it made sense for me. And I'm not a salesy person. I don't like to go out there and knock on doors and things like that, but I was certainly able to use my relationships to get it off the ground.
Yeah. And then that's one thing that's so important. A lot of people we talk to, they don't realize that, all the relationships they have, all it takes is a phone call or a text or reaching out to other people and say, listen, looking for another opportunity. What else do you have?
Yeah. Exactly. You try to help others and somebody will help you.
What's some advice you give to other people that are looking to kind of get out of the industry and move on to the next phase of their lives?
So I would say the number one advice I can give anybody is don't stop what you're doing just to go try something else. Like you should always, have that main income source coming in and then do whatever you're trying to do on the side so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and then you have to bounce back and then you have to go in and you have to bounce back. So like just keep what you're doing, happening, and then make the time. If you're going to want to transition out, make the time to do something else. A perfect example, I just completed a master's in commercial real estate development. It was a 2-year program at USC, and I made the time to go to SC 3 days a week and a 2-year commitment out of my life because I wanted to transition into commercial real estate in the near future. And so that stuff doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It takes time and commitment. And I had to take a GMAT and do all this stuff and, go and do a 2-year program. And I didn't leave my day job to go do it. I still worked and did everything throughout the day. And then in the evening went and did my courses. So I think it's important to just, not stop what you're doing to pursue something else. Just, always test the waters first and make sure it has legs, make sure it can run. If you're going to start a business and you're trying to come up with an idea, something that was really critical for my business is the fact that it's recurring revenue. So when Joe's Pizza signs up for a texting program, they're paying every month. And as their database grows, they're sending more and more messages. And so that client is going to stay with us for 3, 4, 5 years, potentially longer. So it's a lot different than doing a one-time thing for somebody, and then you have to chase the next client, and then you have to chase the next one, which is kind of the agency model. So I think a recurring revenue type, subscription type business is the best type of business that you can have. So think, if you're going to try to come up with suggestions and ideas for what to do, think along those lines. And then if you're going to just think more practically, okay, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't want to come up with if somebody had tasked me with creating a new idea now, I wouldn't know what to do, to come up with another business. At this point, I'm in, I'm in my texting business. That's it. I can't come up with any other suggestions on things to do. So I think if people don't have that mindset of trying to come up with like some magic idea to make money, I think going into like finance, the finance world, real estate, that general direction, would kind of be first and foremost the direction I think would make the most sense, in terms of bringing in income and building a better opportunity, and just do that research and get your education as you're working.
It's funny you mentioned finance and real estate. We've actually interviewed people here on the show that have been former bartenders, cocktail waitresses who are now wealth management advisors and realtors. And a buddy of mine, actually, he was a bartender at Studio 54 nightclub and realized when he was early 20s that he didn't want to do it forever. And he actually owns his own commercial real estate business.
And that's really the trick is when you're in the nightlife industry and you're working nights, you have all day long to not be lazy and to study some of these trades that can help you transition out of it. So studying real estate, studying finance, studying something like that can put you in a career. So it might not be, you starting your own business, but simply transitioning from one industry to another and establishing a career working for another company that's already established. So you don't have to, do all it's starting a business on your own is not easy. As you know, it's a massive amount of work. I had to learn how to do bookkeeping. I had to learn how to do pricing. I had to learn how to do marketing material, like all that I had to create out of nowhere. It doesn't just come out of nowhere, it has to get generated. So it's a big commitment. And when things happen on the weekends, clients call me. They don't call, so at the end of the day, you're always on the hook. So that might not be for everybody, but I think, working in our nightlife industry, I think really opens up a lot of free time to pursuing some of these other channels.
Absolutely. And that's what we try to tell people all the time. If you don't have a direction, stay with what you're doing and throw a bunch of things against the wall until something sticks. Think of something you're interested in. Someone suggested the other day, reach out to people in your network and like, hey, what do you think I'm good at? You gotta be a little bit vulnerable and ask people like outside of yourself, what do you think I'm good at? Where do you see me, 5 years from now?
Yeah, especially people that you work with regularly, like management that you work for, picking their brain and saying, what am I good at? What do you think I can pursue? Where are my strong points? What do I need to work on? I think always being introspective, and even myself, I'm sometimes abrupt with clients and maybe a little harsh, and they think I hate them, which is not true. I just, I'm very brief and to the point, and I also, don't like stupidity, so don't fuck around and say something stupid. But I'm always looking on ways that I can be better, and I can talk nicer, and have a better experience with people. So.
Now, do you feel like a lot of that comes from running the front door of venues?
Yes.
Because I can see that going.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with yes, telling somebody they can't get into the club for whatever reason.
I can see it because I can turn really quick into nightclub Sean again too if I got to deal with the customer and say, listen, get out of here, forget it. I've had to fire clients before. I'm like, listen, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
We're over.
I think working in that adverse environment where you have a lot of random things thrown your way with inebriated people and people that are all yayed out or whatever the case may be, like there's lots of opportunities to really think outside of the box, and get creative with how you handle certain situations that are not going to come up in a normal work environment. So I think we're all stronger for having worked in the nightlife community and just being exposed to everything that comes out of that, the fast pace, especially, Vegas service, right? Vegas service is top notch. And I think people can really lean on that experience and say, listen, I'm a product of the Vegas nightlife community, which is huge in terms of my experience level and the things the adversity that I deal with, and the late hours and the commitment and everything that goes into executing, a flawless night at a nightclub. That's powerful, much more powerful than working at some backwoods bar or some dive bar, right? So I think, people need to lean on that experience and use it to their advantage and use those relationships from, some of the higher ups. These are large companies that are producing these events, in Vegas that much larger than LA production companies.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. People to dive into your experience, especially when you go to an interview, something you don't have the experience in that particular field. Show them all the experience that you do have and how quick your attention to detail, your work ethic, your relationship building, like all the things you pick up in nightlife. Like I have a thing where I think everybody should go through the hospitality industry for at least a couple years, like some stage in your life, because it teaches you so much that you don't get just going from high school to college to career
No,
at all.
and you certainly don't learn that in an office environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, is there anything you want to add before we take off?
No, listen, I wish everybody the best, and everybody in the Vegas nightlife scene that's always looked out for me. I really appreciate the love over the years. Sean, Leah, Brian Hart, Shannon DuPont, Bowtown, you guys, Sonny Smith, the list goes on and on. Stephen Lockwood, can't forget you, buddy. No, I appreciate the love. And if anybody else, comes out to LA and needs some love, I certainly have relationships, I think, still. So,
awesome, buddy.
and hey, text messaging. If anybody needs text messaging services for their business, let us know. We've been doing it for 15 years. We have a lot of reputable clients, and we also develop our own software in-house. So everything's in-house technology. And so we're constantly adding features and doing some cool stuff.
Now, for people who aren't watching it, if you're watching this on YouTube, they'll put a link in the comments. But people who are listening on the podcast, what's the name of the company?
Yeah, sorry, it's iVision Mobile, like the letter I, the word vision, the word mobile. So ivisionmobile.com, and you can check us out online and read about our technology, our kiosk technology, mobile coupons, you name it. We do everything.
Awesome. All right, Omar, it was good to see you again. Good to catch up.
Take care.
We'll talk soon.
All right, have a good one.
Later.